And we're good to go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the traditional year-end edition of the eDiscovery channel, hence my holiday garb. Here, as always, with wearing his holiday garb, Rocky Messing, coming to us for. No, I don't even want to talk football, so you have to cover that shirt up. And we are really pleased to have with us Judge Xavier Rodriguez, who sits currently in the United States District Court for the Western District of Texas in San Antonio. Is that correct, Your Honor?
That's right.
Judge, for those who don't know him, Judge Rodriguez has a long and storied career, beginning with an education at Harvard many years ago. We were just comparing notes about our individual educational exploits at Harvard, and then both an MBA and a law degree at Texas, if I'm
an MPA, a Master's of Public Affairs.
MPA, okay, great.
And then just got an LLM from Duke this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, now you're just embarrassing us. That's this conversation's over. That's all you need. Followed up with a stint, as I recall, Fulbright in Jaworski.
Right.
In when you returned home, and another stint on the Supreme Court of Texas before you were appointed to your current position in 2003.
That's right.
By President George W. Bush. So really, you've been kind of a slacker. You haven't done much with it since you got out of college. I don't know. So
I think we just have to focus on what he did before college.
Yeah. What was your high school job like?
Baskin Robbins was the first job.
There you go. Now you're talking.
It might have been the best one.
So after Harvard, and also there was a stint in there. We talked about this briefly offline as well. You were an ROTC unit at MIT. You talked about how the reception for any representatives of the U.S. military was less than cordial at Harvard for quite some time. That goes back to when I was there in the late 60s.
It's greatly improved now.
Yes. Thank goodness, and our treatment of veterans from that time period is greatly improved as well. But what got you interested in the law? When did that start up?
I think I've been telling myself I was going to be a lawyer since sixth grade. No one in the family was a lawyer, had no real clue about what lawyers really did. The thought just always stuck in me. And then when you get a degree in medieval history and classics at Harvard, law school is where you head to.
So
I'm familiar.
Was it like you had read books, you had watched a TV show, a movie? Like what was it about law that like got you at an early age?
Back then, I mean, we had Perry Mason, but that was about it, right? There weren't all these legal shows back then on our three channels. And so I have no idea where the thought came to me, and it just embedded itself in me. I never let it go.
It's funny because my dad was a lawyer. My aunt, my uncle, like everyone in my family seemed to have gone to law school, and they all told me and my brother, do not go to law school. From a young age, I am not becoming a lawyer. So the opposite path. We see how that works.
But did that continued? I'm especially interested in your time at Harvard. Because as you said, you're not only your major, but just the diversity of experiences there is so wide, and so many different opportunities open up, but you still stay focused on that's kind of where I'm headed.
Well, so I thought about taking a detour for a little while. So I got Harvard paid for through an ROTC scholarship, and so I thought about going active duty for a while. But the scholarship I got was kind of obscene, frankly. I got something called a Guaranteed Reserve Forces Duty Scholarship. So in exchange for 6 years of reserve duty, I got 4 years of Harvard paid for. Yeah,
Wow.
it's so embarrassing. I mean, because during my time, from '83 to whenever I got out, at the very end was Desert Storm One, and I got mobilized to Fort Hood and up in North Texas for a little bit.
Yep.
But other than that short little stint, I did nothing to earn the 4 years of Harvard money. So if they lavish it on too much on veterans or so, I don't even stand because I did nothing.
Wow.
But I did contemplate going active duty for a while. I enjoyed it.
Right.
And, but even with that detour, I still thought I was going to be going to law school. And so that thought never left.
That's interesting.
Okay.
I had actually applied for ROTC scholarships myself, and I was waiting list at Harvard, and was accepted to the ROTC. They still had the program then,
Mhm.
and the director of the program, who was a Marine colonel, and my family was all Navy background. He came to me and said, "You're not going to get in." And I said, "Well, no, I'm waiting list. Don't I have a shot?" He goes, "No." He said, "I asked." And it turns out that there was a person who was 2 years ahead of me at my prep school, was the first person ever accepted to Harvard, from my school. And he said, they told us they're not going to accept anybody else from your school until he graduates. They want to track him and see how he does and, make a basis on that. He said, so, you're toast. He said, I can get you a billet someplace else and try to transfer you in. And it was like, yeah, all right, never mind. It just wasn't, I was,
It's just a different time now.
yeah,
For the longest time, so to get into Harvard, you have to interview with an alumnus. And so
yep.
for the longest time, I was part of that volunteer group that I would interview high school kids, which was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. But it got towards the end, it's like, oh, well, what cancer did you cure? It's like it's incredibly hard now to get it. I mean, kids would be walking into my office with portfolios.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even think I knew what a portfolio was when I was in high school.
They've been preparing since 8th grade. They already know where they want to go, and yeah,
Yep.
they're like dead set on it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I did it for a long time. And it used to be that I got pretty good about predicting who would get in and who wouldn't. But then I gave up with the predictions because it was all just incredibly cream of the crop. Different times.
It was a whole different time. Yeah. So then back to tech. I forgot to say, you grew up in San Antonio, right?
I did. Yeah.
So off to the Athens of
America
for a few years, and then back to UT.
Yeah. Right.
Which is the Athens of Texas, right? And that I guess you just got solidified at that point. I mean, you obviously you're in law school, and did you do the MFA first, or?
It was a joint degree program, and so 1 year you could do it either way. 1 year at the grad school, 1 year at the law school, and the last 2 years you floated between both schools.
Interesting.
So my first year, I go to the LBJ School of Public Affairs. My second year was first year at law school, and then the combo the last 2 years. And I've always just been interested in government, and so I was trying around with what am I going to do with this law degree?
Right.
And I got introduced. I thought my trajectory was going to be completely different. So I thought I started getting an interest in being a bond lawyer. And I thought I was going to do municipal finance. Wow. Until I realized that actually required knowledge of taxes and stuff. And too many numbers here.
Math.
So.
Math reared its ugly head. Yeah. So that took care of that.
Yeah. So that's what I thought I was going to do with the program.
What did your practice focus on at Fulbright then when you finally get out?
So I was I clerked at Fulbright for 2 years, and then one summer, and then a second summer. And so I was floating around the different areas, and so I looked at the municipal finance section, looked at real estate. I was thinking of being a transactional lawyer for a bit, but then I fell into the labor and employment section, and I just liked the people I was working with. It was just a personal connection there with two or three of those folks. And that's primarily what I specialize in. I ended up getting board specialization in labor and employment law. But the office was real small. The Ryan Jaworski office in San Antonio, God, when I first started, I think there was like 14, 15 lawyers. It was small.
Wow.
And so, yeah, you did a bit of everything. And so, and even back then, Fulbright still thought of itself as a litigator kind of a place. And so we all had our own little small dockets, Fulbright took fender benders back then. We had fender bender cases, we had workers' comp, and everybody just got a little bit of something to get acclimated to the world of law.
Interesting. So where, if you have a recollection of how it happened, where did technology enter the mix?
Oh, I remember that. And so that took a while, right? Because, I think like all big law firms, right? We didn't even have computers for a while when I first started. And then eventually we got computers, but we still had the secretaries and secretary pool, and you had your dictaphones, and, you set the cassette tapes to the overnight pool. And so it took a long time before we had to actually work with a computer. But I sort of saw where all this was headed, but just wasn't smart enough to capitalize on it. I thought at one point, so I was a labor and employment lawyer primarily, right? And I could see that, hey, we're going to get to the point we're going to sort of like having forms and for like employee handbooks and stuff like that. And I thought, maybe I should try to think about doing that. And then someone smarter than me came up and said, well, once you have it out there, people are just going to steal it. And how are you going to make money? And so there went that idea. But I could see where all this was headed. And the e-discovery, though, I vividly remember that. So that was between stints. I went up to the Supreme Court of Texas for a little bit, returned back to the firm before I landed this position. And for about a year or so, I was floating around because I sort of knew that this job was being set aside for me. And so I worked this one case up with a partner of mine, and it was an arbitration, but one of our clients was a oncology company, but on the side, they did this consulting business with other companies trying to get their drugs or products through the FDA process. And they had developed an early detection cancer device, this other client did. And so they were getting our client to help them get to the FDA approval. And a controversy started with how many subjects were we going to need for the trial.
Well, we're back to math again. That sounds wrong. So
the numbers of subjects was admittedly low, but supposedly our client's defense was going to be, okay, we had this discussion with our client. They agreed that because of cost considerations, they were going to chance it with this lower threshold number of participants. And supposedly that was in an email. This is 2001. And so we are now trying to find a email, it was like a needle in a haystack. Needless to say, we never found that email.
Really?
And it was one of the largest settlements I ever paid. It was ouch time when we ended up going to mediation for that. But right then and there, I was thinking, God, there's got to be a better way to find this stuff. We turned over everything looking for this email, and so I quickly then realized, oh, this email business is going to be something, and and lo and behold, people were doing contracts and contract amendments already back then in 2001 by email. So like, this is important. And yeah, so I only because of the amount of money we ended up settling for. And that was another revelation to me, since I really wasn't a transactional lawyer. And I came back to the Fulbright offices, to the partner who had this client, ready like to explain, man, sorry about this settlement number. And I was like, oh, no, no, don't worry. Things are great. And it was like, how can things be great? I'm a litigator, right? I feel like I've lost hugely. Right. And he goes, no, mark my words. Tomorrow, when the market gets known that this case is settled now, the stock market price is going to jump. And sure enough, stock market price jumps. They ended up selling this company. That's why they needed to settle this case. And all was well. But sometimes as litigators, we just get in this mindset of like it's either win or lose without getting the big picture. Sometimes that was another eye opener.
Yeah, that's a great lesson, and not just for litigation. I mean, just across the board.
Yeah.
So look at applications.
And I'm kind of skipping forward a little bit here, but when I first met you, we used to talk about it all the time. You were heavily involved in the building of the courthouse, what was, I guess, the new courthouse down in San Antonio. How much did technical considerations play into that building?
Well, that was a labor of love, and sometimes not all that much love. Yeah. So I got into this job in 2003. And by 2004, I'm sort of like the point person, the point judge on the project. And it took us 18 years to finally get the construction funds awarded to us. And so we've just now occupied this building for a year and a few months. And so it was a long road. That went through a number of iterations. I've got to get over it. My wife keeps telling me that.
Sorry if I brought up a source.
Right.
We didn't get the building we were promised, but we got a very handsome building, and so it went through a number of iterations as the construction price got refined. I'm trying to be polite. GSA, our landlords, the General Services Administration, underestimated the construction cost of this building, depending on who you want to believe, anywhere between 50, 60, 70, 80 million dollars. When notice how I say the first contractor, when the first contractor came to my office and told me that we had a $70 million shortfall, I was just perplexed and upset. It's like, how? This project hasn't changed 1 square foot. How can we have a $70 million deficit or delta here? And ultimately, and long story short, they miscalculated personnel cost and a number of other factors. So we had to go through a reiteration of the building. And so the very, very handsome building that the architects here did had to get, it's an ugly word, ugly phrase, value engineered down. And so, like I said, though, it's still better than what we had. We were in a 1968 renovation of the World's Fair building. We had a World's Fair in San Antonio in 68. So when you were rabble-rousing, Tom, in Cambridge there in 68, there was a World's Fair, and our building was the U.S. Pavilion. Okay. And think of it as an early IMAX theater. When you went into the building, you walked in. I remember walking into it, and they only had windows in the front of the building, and they would close these drapes, so the whole place would go dark, and then they would project on the round walls of the interior sights and sounds of the United States. And so that was the exhibit. And so when World's Fair completed, this building was vacant. It was meant to be a temporary structure, but our old building next to the Alamo was too small for use now. And so my predecessors had to smart or not so smart idea to, hey, let's move into this round building over here that's not being used. And, you know, in their defense, it worked for about 20 years. And then San Antonio grew, and so we had to get a new building. And
So was technology a challenge in the old building? And were you able to address that in the new one?
Yeah, no. So yeah, we had nothing in the old building except lead. We did have lead, and we had mold, and so we had those things. Yeah, no. So the old building, the best you were going to get in terms of technology in the old building was Elmo.
And
Elmo was
right.
Elmo was it, and so yeah, no. We you know, I say we have the top of the line. And it's like, God, we as the technology industry and the courts have got to do a better job. You know, just we can put on these major extravagant venue, you know, tech shows, yet we're still doing the same stuff in courthouses. You know, we've got a Elmo, we got plug and play into the laptop to a projection screen, and that's as good as we can get. And now, so I will say we've got a good system. It does what it needs to do. But I've always tried challenging the guys when we're designing the courtrooms. The IT folks, they knew to humor me. It's like, because I would always come up with stuff like, okay, guys, if we can now put Michael Jackson still up on the stage right now and doing dances, you know, then, you know, I want Jedi, you know, projection into here. You know,
right. Every time I walk in, there should be like music automatically playing, and right.
Oliver Wendell Holmes pops up in the corner.
Right.
You know, there's no reason why we can't have 3D projections coming into the courthouse in the next 5 to 10 years. We should be able to get that, right? We ought to be able to bring a doctor in from his office into the courtroom by some kind of a 3D projection better than the 2D we have here. It just makes economic sense to spare the litigants the expense of having a doctor just kill a whole day just to testify for 45 minutes. It doesn't make any sense.
We're going to get there. Thing? I mean, courts are always at the bottom of the budget barrel, if you will. Is it that?
Part of it's budget, part of it's pushback. So, like, one of the current director of the administrative office, when we came out of pandemic mode, sort of celebrated coming out of pandemic mode, and then sort of also made it known, though, that, you know, she was not keen for a whole lot more remote proceedings. And it's like, yeah, I was disappointed in that statement, frankly. You know, I thought remote proceedings, you know, for many small hearings, non-evidentiary matters make a lot of sense, and we ought to continue to be advocating for them. And that this is the federal courts. In the state court, I see a whole lot more room for this. I mean, small claims court, man, I would love to see small claims courts being done after hours, you know, when people can not be taken away from their jobs and adjudicate those matters where otherwise they would have taken a default.
When
you're talking access to justice, I mean,
so many litigants in state court are pro se, and like you said, they can't take that time in the middle of the day. They just can't. That's a great point.
I want to.
Sorry, go ahead. I was like,
problem with the technology.
Everybody, separate back to your corners.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Connor.
So I was just going to end the comment. You know, so Tom, you talked about it being cost. I think it's cost because we don't want to put the cost consideration up front. You know, we as a legal industry do a really great job of no, and we're starting even to see it. Maybe we can talk a little bit later about AI, but we're already seeing the pushback now, and it really I'm really disappointed when I start hearing that or seeing that pushback. We do as lawyers a great job of saying no, And that's not what clients and litigants want out of us. They want solutions. They don't want no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Groucho Marx. You said the magic word, down comes the bird.
Yeah.
The magic word for the day is AI. Where do you see that in your realm? What role does AI have to play in the judicial realm?
So we're going to start seeing it in evidence. That's surely to come very quickly, and so we're going to have to deal with it. Now, where we're seeing it is on generated briefs, right? And so ChatGPT is getting a lot of, I think, bad publicity. That case. What is it called? Oh heck.
The New York case with the brief.
Yeah, the New York case that everybody's gotten all the publicity on, right? That wasn't the fault of AI, the ChatGPT tool. That was the fault of the lawyer. It's these things are the generative AI, like ChatGPT that we're going to do legal brief writing on. It's a tool, and just like any other tool, it can be mishandled, and so this lawyer, turns in what's supposed to be a tool and turns in the product as like it's final, and it's like that's the fault of the lawyer.
Yeah.
And so
can I make the counter argument there? The counter argument is that when the education around the tools is that this is another tool just like LexisNexis, and you don't question when you look up a brief and you look up a citation that I'm getting the right information. So in terms of from the lawyer's perspective, right, it's the same. I'm looking it up here, I'm looking it up there, I get the information and I include it in whatever brief or whatever response that I'm submitting. So from their perspective, it's a tool. It just happened to give the wrong information, as opposed to the tools that we're used to using that we assume are giving us the right information. We don't even know if they're giving us the right information. That's the counter argument. But I agree that it is a tool that it should be used in the right way, and it can be used in a very effective way.
So
I agree
with that as well.
Yeah,
it's the archer, not the arrow, as John Martin, a great technologist, said once. But Judge, where does a lawyer go to get the training on that? I mean, I lay fault honestly at the feet of the law schools, who have just ignored technology training. You teach a great course at you did. I don't know if you still do at St. Mary's, right?
I do. Yeah.
But we could count on both hands how many people are doing a course like that, right?
Right. So, I'm going to agree with Rocky. It's a matter of education, right? So we got to be doing a better job of training and educating lawyers and judges on all this. But, but I'm going to push back on Rocky's comment. So it's a tool that was improperly used. Everybody starts blaming the tool. The tool hallucinated, and it's like my half joke about all this is, lawyers hallucinated all the time when I was a lawyer. Some opponent would come up to me, this case stands for this, and you'd read it, and it's like, how did you think that this case stood for that? Right. So lawyers have been hallucinating without AI tools. And so, I don't think we blame the tool. And a lot of what we're seeing going on right now with these orders that are coming down, they're blaming earlier versions of ChatGPT, version 2 and 3. We're already at 4. We're pushing 5. And so these programs are never going to get perfect, but they're getting better. So that's one comment. And then the other comment I have about all this is that, we're seeing, I don't know if either one of you have looked at the beta that Westlaw has got out there, and Lexis. I haven't seen its version yet. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to what Westlaw is doing, but this is going to be commonplace now. And so for anybody who's watching this, if you haven't seen what we're talking about, if you look at your screen, you'll do what a query, a prompt, and just like you would in ChatGPT, you'd ask you're in Westlaw Precision, and you put in your prompt, and out comes the GPT response. And then on the other half of the screen, what you'll see is Westlaw or Lexis's 3 to 5 citations, either to cases or statutes, that it says the algorithm used in generating the response that you're seeing on the other side. And so you can click on the cases or statutes, satisfy yourself that, yeah, the response is accurate. And then here's the real cool little thing. Westlaw has a little interface with Word, and you press a button and it all gravitates over to your Word document. Now that to your point, Rocky, that might be the problem, right? But we're going to get so lazy, we're just going to now start hitting the point to Word button.
I think the answer to that is yeah,
education. That goes to the education, and a good lawyer will do their job. We're not talking about getting rid of lawyers here. AI is not going to eliminate the need for it. Yes, AI in a lot of industries is going to eliminate jobs in some ways, but it's also going to just make us much more effective at doing the jobs that we do. And a lawyer who is doing their job and is actually going to take the time to verify and do all of the things that they need to do, but they have to be educated that those are the steps and those are the things that they need to do in order to do that verification. So
yeah,
I think the other thing is, as you point out, Judge, we're not going to have, and Bill Gates said this about ChatGPT, because of course Microsoft is heavily invested in both the literal and the philosophical sense in ChatGPT. These tools are going to be built in, just like you described right there with Wes. He said, when you do spell check, he said, you don't hit the spell check button. It's turned on in the defaults, and it just does it, and you come to accept it, and you think, but you still have to look at it. Is it there or there? Is it the right there? You still have to verify that. But I think that's where we're going with AI as well. It's going to be built in. And you're going to have a streamlined process. The good news is that, just as we've done also for years, Westlaw and Lexis will be giving those tools away for free at law schools, and people will start to get used. First one's free, and then when you get out and get your job, it's like, well, I have to pay for this. But you'll be so used to using it that it's like, okay, I want to use it. So yeah, we forget ChatGPT's been out for what, a year and a half?
It's just had
its year anniversary. So
so this is remarkably new technology that is only going to get better, and only going to get more streamlined, and built in to offer features like that. I saw one, and I'm not endorsing his product, although I respect him greatly. John Tredenik had an example the other day about using the summarization factor of AI, not just search the documents, but give me a summary of what I just looked at. And I commented on his post. This is going to be a remarkable change. This is something that's really, really useful, because it gives me not just a summary, but as you just said, now I can go and look at that and say, is this correct? Is this what I want? Oh, did he really shoot the sheriff? I want to poke down a little bit more. And check on that. So I think it's going to get better. Yeah.
I'm going to work on an experiment. Hopefully it'll work on a small little paper if this experiment works. So I finished up a 5-week bench trial on a voting rights case. And so it's hundreds of thousands of pages of exhibits and transcripts between live witnesses and deposition witnesses, over 50. And so, massive amount of documents. My law clerk's office is just covered in boxes. And so I'm going to run an experiment where I've got the daily transcript. When I have a law clerk or an intern do a summary of that witness's testimony, we'll see how long it took them to do it. If I was charging them out as an associate, what would it cost, and what's the product look like? And then I'm going to use an AI tool. I won't say which one I'm using And so this is the experiment, though. I don't want anybody thinking I'm actually doing this for the order. This is my experiment. And I want to do I want to do a comparison.
Yeah, that's a great
but
idea.
again, it's do the due diligence and understand as a judge, that's your job is to actually understand what the ramifications of it are so that you can make the right decisions. I want to switch gears only because we're beginning to head towards the end of time here that we have. You know, Judge, you're sitting here with Tom and myself, and you know, the reason this video is this chat is on the e-discovery channel. When you became a district judge, I mean, you're one of the more well-known jurists in the e-discovery space, in the e-discovery industry. It's a two-part question. Part one is, did you ever think when you became a judge that is one of the things that you would be known for, and that you know you'd have the experience within this space and going and talking to you know attendees at conferences and things like that, specifically in technology and e-discovery? And the second question is a more personal one. Is that what you want to be known? One of the things that you actually want to be known for as a jurist in terms of your career? We've asked this question to a number of the judges who we've had on for our end of the year chats, and we've gotten some very different responses. So I'm very curious to hear yours.
Well, thanks for the compliment. It's undeserved, but thank you. Yeah, did I ever see this happening for me? No, you know what? I know I've always done CLE, even when I was a lawyer, and so I believe in CLE. I enjoy doing CLE. I learn more than probably what I teach, and that goes for school too. And so I've always enjoyed CLEs, and so I've always, you know, I knew I was going to continue doing that as a judge, but doing e-discovery and technology was kind of a surprise. Now, there is a geekiness factor in the family, though. I do have an identical twin, and he is the chief. Yeah, he is the chief technology officer for a hospital chain up in Ohio.
Huh.
So, yeah, so that there is a geekiness here that runs in the DNA. So that's that. Now, do I want to be known for this? You know, I would hope I'd be known and remembered for being a fair, principled, reasoned judge. I guess I would hope that people will think of me that way. Who knows what they'll think of me? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, you've got plenty of years still to
That's
go.
right. That's right. So listen, I want to be mindful. You said you have an appointment coming up.
Thank you.
We close our session with a standard question, which is, if you could spend a day with anybody from our profession, living or dead, who would that person be, and what would you spend the day doing with them?
So that's a hard one. I'm going to go with John Adams.
Wow.
Oh, so I've been trying to avoid politics or anything, but I would like to get. Yeah, I would like to get a sense of what did he envision this country was going to look like, act like? Did he envision the same constitutional scope that they created, and that was going to carry forward? What do those couple of words mean in the Second Amendment? Why'd you throw them in there? I have a whole bunch of questions I like that. What was the meaning of the 10th Amendment? And
interesting.
I think that would be kind of a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, a fascinating character. You could ask him also about his relative Sam. What was the deal with Sam? The firebrand of the revolution.
There's a black sheep in every family.
Talk about the black sheep, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Did he ever think that he would be on a Broadway show? That's
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did John Adams defend the soldiers in the Boston Massacre?
He did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and going back to my Harvard days, I didn't just thought of that now when I said that. So I lived in Adams House, and it wasn't known for a single person. It was named after the family Adams.
Yeah. The Adams family. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody knows
Yeah.
about them. Well,
And Tom, hold on, wait, we do have to ask the judge, that other question.
the other question?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think we do.
go ahead.
So, this is typically Tom asks this one, but I will take on Beatles or Stones.
Ooh, Beatles.
Ugh.
My wife and
went.
I just took a trip to England this last summer, and we had a stop in Liverpool. It was a cruise ship, and it was a stop at Liverpool. They have a great Beatles museum there. It's really, really well done.
Good.
But,
That's
yeah.
good. Have
Awesome.
you heard the new song?
So I have heard about it.
There's
I
an
have not heard it
intersection of
myself.
technology and
Yeah.
Yeah.
popular.
And so what we're referring to is that so this was written by one of the Beatles, but
Yeah.
what they've done now is going to sort of deep fake technology, taken the voices of all the other Beatles and now have them singing the song they never sang together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, Jean recorded it on a cassette, which was common practice back then, and it was very muddy. And the story I read was when they first listened to it, George Harrison said, "No way, it sounds terrible. Not, the song is interesting, but there's nothing we can do with that recording." And now, flash forward 25 years, and they got Peter Jackson to use some of his AI and digital magic to extract the voice and beef it up, and then they all came in and recorded parts. And
I think it's actually not a bad song, and you could absolutely say it's a Beatles. Like you listen to it.
Yeah, great use of technology. Amazing.
I'll need to listen to it.
Yeah, it's very well done. I mean, it's the Beatles. I mean, not all live, and is it live or is it Memorex? But a really great use of the technology. Well, Judge, thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you go because I know you have a call.
Thank you.
I hope I hope you're enjoying the holidays. And will we see you at Legal Tech New York?
Haven't got an invite.
Oh, ouch. Well, it never stopped me from crashing a party. Does Rocky know? Invite? What's an invite?
Yeah.
Mazel tov. Well, we hope you'll get an invite, and if not, you'll Bill Hamilton's conference. Didn't I see you there?
I'm the keynote for Florida.
So if I don't see you in New York, I'll see you in that other mecca of entertainment, Gainesville, Florida.
It's a warmer spot.
Yeah, well, there is that.
I'd rather be there. Correct.
Yeah, right.
So,
Thanks again.
Happy holidays to you all, and be careful.
You bet.
Thanks.